All right, welcome back to Daily Stand-Up, and today's, hold on a second, let me drag my head to the side. Oh, can you not do that? You see what I'm working with here, guys? I have like my head down in the corner on a movie recording, and then I'm doing a screen recording. I don't know if there's a better way to do that, but that's currently what we're doing. So my in-progress ticket, the only real status update I have is the video that I think you will see before this video goes out, maybe after by a little bit. I don't know. Regardless, the video's made. I got the equations that I'm going to need at first, and I have the JavaScript functions to return me the result thanks to ChatGPT. So we have all this. So define all the equations we need. We did that. We have our JavaScript functions created. So I think I'm going to move this to done. So we have that work completed, which I guess I put as a research task, right? I guess it could have just been a regular like to-do task, but here we are. It got done both ways. So the next one I'm going to slide over, I think, is going to be the research database providers. Well, I'm going back and forth. I have to, right now, this is the spot in stand-up when you've moved all your tickets to done. Now your in-progress lane is empty. Now you have to go and pick something else. And it's really, deciding what to do is one of the harder things, I would say, in software development. This is our to-do column. I think I put these in priority, so I guess the back end just finish just the home controller and making sure that routing is squared up before I go any further. I guess that wouldn't be a bad one to do, so I'm going to go ahead and do that in progress. I'm going to finish that up, make sure that's good, and then try to get whatever I can out of a video out of that code. But to be honest with you, I don't think it's going to be much code, so we'll see what I end up doing for a video for that ticket. Basically, how this is ultimately going to reduce down to is pretty much every ticket is going to be its own little video, as I'm hoping is what it kind of equates to roughly. That's what it's mostly been so far, with the exception of like when I originally made like the project file and did all that stuff. But I think that's what it's going to be. So yeah, I'm going to do in progress, and let me just see what I put on here. So this came out of the project planning meeting we had, and our what is finish invitation, determine functionality, redirects, stuff out potential. Okay, yeah, I think we should be good for this. I think it's going to take me a day to do, and I think I'm good to move it into in progress. Done when I can successfully hit the home controller. Okay, that sounds good to me. And basically, the way I have my routing set up right now, so I'm using this package called Wouter. It's like a super small package that you can use routing instead of React Router. React Router is good, and it's pretty standard in some cases, but there's some extra stuff that you get with it. It's a little bit bigger, and there's a little more we'll call it boilerplate code that kind of goes along with it. Wouter doesn't have any dependencies. It's super small, and it basically does one thing really well, and just handling routes. Basically, you just set up your routes, and you kind of go from there. Which maybe I can pull that up real fast to show you. Let's see if it'll. I don't know if it like. It pops me over to that window. I don't know if it matters if I'm screen recording this window. I'm not sure, but I should be able to get here. Okay, so here's my project. You can see this is the engine code that we've got out of the research ticket. So this is basic stuff we have: calculate displacement volume, compression, scavenging efficiency. So we have some really neat data points that we're going to get from this, and they're going to be called from our simulation engine, basically, that we're going to be making. But back to the routing part of this. So if you go to your, for me, so there's a couple different strategies, right, for front-end development in terms of naming and structure. Sometimes you'll see an app.tsx along with an index. Just because of how I'm doing it, I opted to just put this in my index.tsx file. If you're used to kind of a mobile app development world with React Native, you'll probably be very accustomed to seeing an app.tsx or app.js file, depending if you're using TypeScript or not. So in my case, we're in the index.tsx, and these are the routes. So I'm importing route from Louder, and that's it. And that's all you have to do. So you assign, you basically, what you're basically doing is you're saying, hey, if the user types in /about, this is the component that should be rendered from the front end. So you're registering basically your routes. If you're used to any kind of routing tables, or routing in a .NET world on the back end, as you're in your startup pipeline, it registers those routes, or basically the pattern to which to route your application. This is essentially what this is doing, but on the front end. So it's saying, hey, like when your JavaScript gets bundled down to its source, this is going to be like, okay, if a user puts in a route and it's registered in these routes, we're going to render that component out. If it's not registered in this routes, then we're going to send it back to the server, because you saw I have my little catch-all attribute on my home controller. It's going to try to go to the server and say, hey, we don't know what this route is. What do we do with it? And that's kind of the general flow we're going to be using, right? Because if you're in your app directory, you have to handle invalid URLs somehow. So there's one way to do it. And again, Louder is very lightweight, and you can see that's all I had to do to register those. So that's what I like about it. And then in terms of like navigating, let me trying to find one that. So it just you can use these hooks. So you can see use location, and you can get a location and a navigate. So let's see. I'm like thinking as I say this here. Okay, I have a button, and I've registered. I'm calling this navigate function on the on-click event here. So when I click the button, it's going to navigate basically back. This is one of the things that I think might be lacking with Louder. I think I could be wrong, so take this with a grain of salt. But in React Router, you get a history, and with history you can just go back, and it has like basically a stack of where you've been. I haven't seen that with Louder. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm just missing it, but anyway, that's just like a basic example of navigating. Obviously, you can put whatever path you want in there, and it'll take you to that registered route if you have it set up. So pretty nice. It's pretty lightweight. I'm sure there are other features and things that are included, or maybe just some things that I'm doing wrong, which is possible. And like I have actually I'm not going to go into that now, but yeah, so that's kind of that. Another thing I wanted to kind of bring up in this stand-up is a strategy for documenting a lot of the architecture decisions we're going to have to make. I was reading about this thing, and it's called Lightweight Architecture Decision Records, I guess by this guy Peter Evans. So he kind of has this post, and he outlines a potential strategy for basically documentation around your architecture decisions. So title, context, decision status, and consequence. And then he links like a real example of somebody doing this. So I don't know who this is, but this is just like the linked example of how they went about it. So like one VPC environment, I'm guessing they're like figuring out their AWS networking, AWS networking outline. So their decision, I guess, is to use one VPC per environment, and the consequence is, that. The context is, what's seems like, they're migrating to AWS, and the status is whatever the status is, in progress or partly superseded, whatever that means in their context. So this seems like a pretty straightforward, and you can just organize it by file. So I might try to do the same for my projects. I've never actually, I just read about it the other day. It was in this one microservices book that I'm going through currently. I forget the name. It's I don't know where it is. But yeah, so I'll probably like link that or something. So I might try to document that and put it somewhere. I don't know if I guess I could include it in my source control, but we'll see. I just need some way to document, what I'm doing or what I'm thinking, mainly because, right, it's just me, so I have to keep track of this somehow. My thing going? Yeah. So that's kind of it. I think you saw, like, depending on when the other video goes up, I started to kind of, like, write my first architecture decision record just on, like, sticky notes. But I'm going to transfer that to, like, a actual file or something in my source control. But yeah, I think that's it. So I'm going to start working on backend finish home controller, and I will have an update on that one. I might bump this up to 2, to be honest with you, because I think there's going to be some decisions made in here that might take me a bit longer. So as I'm thinking about, I'm gonna reestimate this to a 2. It might take me a couple of days. So we'll save that, and I think it's good for now in progress. And I will see you on the next stand-up.